Mira Cole never believed in coincidences, especially not the kind that felt too precise to be random. When she discovered the old, folded map hidden inside a forgotten library book, something about it immediately felt wrong. The paper was aged, yet strangely intact, as if time had avoided it on purpose. On it was a place called Hawthorne School, marked as closed since the 1980s. But what unsettled her most was not the school itself, but the fact that no modern record, no digital archive, and no city map acknowledged its existence anymore. It was as if the place had been erased, not abandoned. That night, she showed it to Jace, Lila, and Rowan. Each of them reacted differently, but none of them laughed. Jace studied the paper like it was code. Lila felt an uneasy pull she couldn't explain. Rowan stayed silent longer than usual, which in itself was a warning. And somehow, without agreement or logic, they decided the same thing. They would find it. The journey began like any other road trip, but the world around them slowly began to change in ways they could not ignore. The roads grew narrower, older, almost forgotten by modern time. Street signs became inconsistent, some half-rotted, others completely blank as if language itself had faded from them. Jace's navigation systems failed one by one. First the GPS froze, then the signal vanished completely, leaving them in a place that technology no longer recognized. The forest around them thickened unnaturally, trees bending inward like silent witnesses guiding them toward something they were not meant to find. And then they saw it. Hawthorne School stood beyond a rusted gate, its structure intact but abandoned in a way that felt wrong. It did not look destroyed by time, it looked paused, waiting for something to resume. Lila whispered that it didn't feel empty. And no one argued. The moment they approached the gate, it opened on its own. No wind, no force, no visible reason. Just slow movement, like the building itself had acknowledged their arrival. Inside, the air changed. It was colder, heavier, and carried a silence that felt intentional rather than natural. Even their footsteps seemed muted, as though the ground refused to fully accept their presence. Then the bell rang. It was distant yet sharp, echoing through unseen corridors that should not have had power. Jace immediately pointed out the impossibility. There was no electrical source, no system, nothing that could produce sound. But the bell rang again, and this time, it felt closer. Too close. Mira turned instinctively, realizing the sound was not coming from the school itself, but from somewhere around them, something overlapping reality in ways they could not yet understand. Still, they stepped forward. Inside the school, the corridors stretched farther than logic allowed. Doors repeated in patterns that made no architectural sense, and the deeper they walked, the more the building felt less like a structure and more like a memory repeating itself incorrectly. That was when they saw the students. They moved slowly through the hallways, wearing uniforms that belonged to another era. Their movements were calm, almost rehearsed, yet completely silent. No footsteps echoed. No whispers followed. But something was wrong. They cast no shadows, and when one finally turned toward them, its face was disturbingly blank, no clear eyes, no defined mouth, just the shape of a human expression that had never been completed. Lila instinctively stepped back. Rowan stayed frozen, as if his instincts could not decide whether what he saw was real. And Mira understood something far worse. They were not visitors here. They were intrusions. Room 19 was different from everything else in the school. Unlike the open, decaying doors around it, this one was sealed with chains that looked both ancient and recently placed at the same time. The contradiction made no sense, yet it felt intentional. The chains vibrated softly as Mira approached, almost like they were reacting to her presence. Jace analyzed the structure, trying to find logic, while Lila urged them to leave. But Rowan, driven by something he could not explain, pulled at the lock. The metal did not break. It loosened, as if it was choosing to release itself. When the door finally cracked open, every light in the corridor dimmed simultaneously. A deep silence followed, heavier than before. Then a voice spoke, not through the air, but directly inside their minds. "You are early." And in that moment, none of them were sure if they had opened the door, or if the door had opened them. They ran, but the school no longer behaved like a fixed structure. The corridors shifted behind them, doors vanishing and reappearing in places they had already passed. Windows revealed impossible versions of the same building, some burning, some submerged, some being constructed all over again from nothing. Jace realized the terrifying truth. The school was not abandoned. It was repeating. A loop of existence that reset itself, rewriting its own history every time it reached an ending. And somehow, they had entered during a transition. The students they had seen before were multiplying now, appearing in every direction, watching silently as if recognizing something familiar in the group, not strangers. Not intruders. Variables. And the school was beginning to correct them. Their exit no longer existed. Where the gate once stood was now a shifting wall of material that resembled brick, glass, and something far less stable. It changed constantly, as if unsure what form reality was supposed to take. The bell rang again. This time, it was everywhere. The sound filled the corridors, the walls, even their thoughts, until it became impossible to separate from silence. Mira understood then that the school did not release those who entered. It absorbed them into its structure, rewriting them into its endless timeline. The figures approached slowly. Not aggressively, not urgently, just inevitably. As if the ending had already been decided long before they ever found the map. And as the light faded into an unnatural stillness, Hawthorne School prepared to begin its next cycle, with its newest additions now permanently part of its memory.